After Malcolm X came back from Mecca, that's when things started to get a lot more tense and a lot more, crazy in terms of his home life. Now, I remember your mother had done an interview where she said that, before the actual assassination, that there were 3 different attempts on your father's life. Now, was that accurate?
If that's what she said, that was accurate.
Okay.
If that's what she said. Again, the attempts, it wasn't because of something that was going on between the nation. It was because he had gained the support of 33 heads of African, states, and their agenda was to bring the issue of human rights violations to the Supreme Court at the United Nations. And so he was killed shortly after, as were a few other people.
Okay, because one of the things that he mentioned was that when he was in Mecca, he was being watched,
right,
and he was being followed, and he
right,
felt that it was by the CIA.
Right.
Do you think that's what happened?
Well, I wasn't there, but I believe whatever my father says.
Yeah.
And so his point was that he wasn't being followed by the Nation of Islam. When they say that, his own people killed him, it doesn't matter who pulled the trigger. What matters is who organized this assassination, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, when your father was killed, you were actually there in the audience.
My sisters and I were there, but we were babies. I wasn't quite 3 years old. I mean, I was 2. I hadn't turned 3 yet. And my oldest sister was 6. Attila was 6, Kabila was 4, I was 2. My mother was pregnant with the twins, and I believe my sister, who was a baby, was left with our babysitter, our house.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you started to get older, and you remember more of what happened, what was really the effect of your family witnessing something so horrific? Because your mother obviously remembers it all, but you had older sisters that had some sort of remembrance of this whole thing. Well,
my older sisters, Attila and Kabila, both remember very clearly, very vividly, seeing their father being killed. And I always say that the noise for anyone, a baby, that has to have some sort of effect. But one of my first book, Growing Up X, speaks to all of that, and it speaks mostly to the will of my mother. How she managed to smile, in the face of her children, but was obviously in pain, behind closed doors. She had 6 babies. She raised each one of us. She sent us to the best schools that she could because she knew that education was very important. She didn't get any public grants or anything. She worked very hard to make sure that her husband's girls were properly educated, were properly self-sustaining, that they were proud to be women, that they were proud to be people of the African diaspora, that they were proud to be Muslims, in spite of everything in society that says these 3 categories are at the bottom of our social totem pole. And so, so I always take my hat off to her. She gives me courage, strength, lots and lots of love. She overprotected us. Yeah.
Well, your mother did an interview in 1994, and they asked whether Farrakhan had anything to do with Malcolm X's death. And she replied, of course, yes. Nobody kept it a secret. It was a badge of honor. Everybody talked about it. Farrakhan denied that he had anything to do with it. He said, I never had anything to do with Malcolm's death, although he created an atmosphere that allowed Malcolm to be assassinated. But when you look at those 2 statements, what is your take on it?
My take on it is that it's very unfortunate that a lot of these members were very young. And I think sometimes, our humanity, kind of gets the best of us. We get a little envious of those who are being really progressive and getting a lot of attention. Unfortunately, we, do things that we regret when we're older. I don't think, I mean, clearly he did not pull the trigger, but he made no qualms about it that he knew it was going to happen. So I think it's just all very unfortunate, especially when you get older and you realize that this person had put his life on the line to save all of us. You know, not just for himself or his family. He never got paid. He didn't get a penny. He didn't ask for a penny in return for this work that he was doing for himself or his family.
Yeah. Well, Farrakhan had a speech at one point. He said, "Was Malcolm your traitor or ours? And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, what the hell business is it of yours? A nation has to be able to deal with traitors and cutthroats and turncoats." And a lot of people say that was, you know, him almost taking credit for that type of situation. I mean, when you heard that speech, how did you react to it?
You know, I think, unfortunately, that, it's ignorance, you know, that you're jumping ahead of, I think it's unfortunate, and I think that's why my father said, when they asked him, "What is your agenda? Will you be spearheading this?" And he said, "No, I don't take ownership in leading anyone to do anything." You know, that we all have to do this collectively, because he knew his brilliance, his just everything about him, his charm, he was a beautiful human being. And unfortunately, sometimes some people are envious of others and they want to cut them down and not look at the bigger picture. And so they allow themselves to be used to try and tear down the other and, all this other stuff. It still happens today, of course.
Yeah. Well, the group of people who were involved in your father's assassination, they all got 20 years to life in prison. And one of the guys, Thomas Hagen, is actually out of prison. I forgot exactly when he got released. Have any of them ever reached out to apologize? Because I know that they said at one point that they feel, very bad about what they did. They left the Nation of Islam afterwards. Have you actually been in contact with any of these people?
Well, only one of the persons of the three that served is one of the persons who pulled the trigger. The other two did not. And there's another one who still lives in New Jersey, who worked for the police department. And he's still...
Wait.
Oh, you don't know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh,
so you're saying one of the people involved in your father's assassination is now a police officer in New Jersey?
No. What I think, you can go online and Google New Jersey resident who assassinated Malcolm X.
Oh, wait, hold on. William Bradley. Okay. So have any of them ever tried to reach out to apologize or anything?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And there are also some, if you Google Razak, what is it? I can't remember. Abdul Razak, who his former name was James 67X, was my father's secretary. I'm on Twitter. I think I might have tweeted something about him. And he always says who the real triggermen were, and that they weren't in the Nation of Islam, and that they worked for, different entities. And, so I think that there's just so much that we will find out.
Okay, so when the men that were involved reached out to you, what was that conversation like?
There's so much information online. Abdul Razak, there's a lot of footage of him discussing the assassination of his former friend, leader, formerly James 67X, who recently passed away. There are plenty of people who talk about the persons who assassinated their friend, and that there was only one person who actually was arrested and charged that was involved, and the other two weren't. And even he says that.
Now your sister, Qubilah, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Qubilah, she was actually charged with conspiracy to kill Louis Farrakhan.
She didn't go to jail. She didn't conspire to kill Farrakhan. she went to the United Nations International School. There was another young man who went to school with her, Kirk Fitzpatrick. Kirk Fitzpatrick appeared out of nowhere. They were friends when they were in school, and he discussed it, and it was supposed to be a joke. And I think he must have been filming it, or he was recording what he was saying to my sister. And there you had that, all of that happened. It was really unfortunate because my sister, Kabila, her name means Mother Nature. She wouldn't kill a flea. She was the one who had the turtles, all the little insects and cocoons, that would become butterflies when we were children. She would have all these, all these things of nature in her room.